And due to these barriers, it means that inevitably there's going to be waste in a learning process. And actually, AI is already being talked about in terms of addressing waste. We talk about productivity. So most AI is framed in terms of how it makes us more productive, and it helps skip a step in a process. And this is where, if you sort of look back a year ago, and faculty concerns that were arising were mostly around how AI was doing the work for a student. And now the conversation is starting to shift. But actually, I'd suggest that addressing waste in the learning process is a really effective and meaningful use of AI if we think about it in terms of learning. So if we look at waste in a process, in manufacturing, the theory of constraints exists to look at where in a process you're wasting the ultimate impact that you're trying to achieve. And this theory of constraints identifies bottlenecks that are reducing that impact. And when we first looked at this, our question was like, what are the constraints for learners which are limiting their learning output? How can we think about learning and waste in this context? Well, in process waste theory, there's something called the Lean Six Sigma, which is a categorization of 8 wastes in any process, but specifically manufacturing. And we found that these wastes in a process can actually be applied to learning too, if you look at the impact that those wastes are having. So if we take non-utilized talent, for example, in Lean Six Sigma, non-utilized talent is wasted opportunity. It's the impact of poorly trained employees, ineffectual equipment, using the wrong tools, and not incentivizing properly. And in a classroom, non-utilized talent here is arguably comes from initially not just barriers to access, not being able to actually access the learning opportunity. And if a student can't access and engage with content, whether from challenges with attention, concentration, information processing, ultimately that challenge is going to cause a bottleneck in the learning process. So if they don't have the right study skills, they can't work to retain and apply the information after class. If they're using AI to skip a task that would otherwise help the learning process, then it's the wrong tool for the job.